you came from a family with a ton of kids. Where do you land on
2 years in?
2 years in, are we thinking 4 years? There's a little guy running around. I'm sure that you've had the conversation.
We have. I've told him that I will not consider it until I'm 30. I think that, and so that gives me 3 more years.
Sure.
And even that freaks me out. I don't know. I think.
Is he older or younger than you?
He's 4 years older.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've talked with this with a lot of my friends and had a lot of conversations around kind of career and family and what that looks like for me and what I thought that was supposed to be as like a 12-year-old or a 16-year-old growing up in this like very conservative type realm where all of the women stayed home and and I know that that's what some women are called to, and I think whenever I look at my life and what I want with my life, it's more of a these are these things that I want to accomplish, and there are these like creative things that I want to accomplish. These are the goals that I want to run after, and then like having a family is not, I wouldn't say secondary, but it's like
you want it to be established whenever you begin that.
Yeah, and I think as like a woman, there's like just biological aspects of like I would have to take such and such time off.
Sure.
And like
for sure.
Well,
knowing exactly how consuming an infant is. I mean, having raised your siblings essentially to an extent, it's not a new idea to you.
You're aware of the reality. Yeah.
For like a decade of your life, probably.
Totally.
Yeah.
Of like exactly what it would take, and kind of the financial aspects of it is like daunting as well.
Yeah.
And
I think 30 is a great age. I mean, looking back at my history, and 24 was so different for me than where I am now.
Yeah.
We had our first kid at 25. I was 25. Mm-hmm. He just turned 7 last week.
Yeah.
And luckily he's a cool kid, and you can never, of course, regret a child.
Totally.
But he's gone through so much just in terms of our personal development. I just looked up the stat. Average age to have a first baby in the U.S. is, as of 2016, is 26.3 years old. According to data from the National Center of Health Statistics, that's compared to the age of 22.7 for the first baby in 1980.
Oh, it's
and I
for
think
sure
it's
getting
because
older.
it's so we've talked about our generation bringing back the handcrafted, the wanting to develop your thing. We realized that we're not going to get a job at the grocery store and have a baby or a Starbucks or I don't know, whatever, a manager of a Whole Foods or whatever.
Totally.
We're not just going to jump straight into that and have start a family at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
It takes time to develop your own business, your own brand, your own art, your own whatever. Yeah. I think that statistically that group of people is so much bigger than it used to be.
Sure. I think so. Well, and I think that the way that our generation looks at work and life is really different than the past 30 years. I think of it and I think we view it as I'm going to have 5 or 6 different jobs in my lifetime instead of work at,
retire from
Southwestern
FedEx.
Bell for 40 years and then I'm going to retire. Right. I think the way that we realized that life and work is more closely intertwined. And I was talking to another creative about this the other day of with a creative, your life and your career and work and family and friends are all vastly more integrated than a typical lawyer, accountant, whatever, where that's a living, breathing, flowing thing from career to not career, that everything has to be a lot there has to be some consistency there. There has to be joy in all, like, not joy in all aspects, but there just has to be a lot of more flow there than I think there has been for a creative, because you like pull from everything to create. And like, I'm having meetings with this person, and then I'm running around and putting my work here. And like, eventually that's what I wanted. There's a lot more freedom to it, and talking to this person, and where it's a lot more flowing. And then, you know, someone who is in oil and gas and has a very, very separate like work-life
totally
balance.
I would even venture to say that like the cultural norms of like women in business is vastly different than it was in the 80s.
For sure.
And the way that we perceive like, you know, the actual sacrifice of like the maternity role of like carrying a child, birthing a child, and the responsibility of like the woman to take care of that child, I think is shaped differently than it was in the 80s.
I think
as well.
Maybe someone will comment this, or somebody will whatever, but after I said that stat, like, I just looked it up in the moment, but I also thought that birth control has probably come a long way in terms of convenience and usability and access to it. But I think it still speaks to like, the difference in our generation of, you know, like, we want to build a foundation of a developed career, like, because you want to do what you want. You don't want to go work at Southwestern Bell for 40 years and live for the show that you watch that night and your, you know, whatever.
Want to be more in control of like what's happening.
Do you think that you'll have multiple, or you just take that as it comes?
Yeah, I think Weston would like to have multiple. I think we'll get there. Like, I don't know. To me, I feel like one seems really manageable. Where it's like, I can do that. Like, I can have that baby in a seat while I'm painting, and then we'll go from there. 2 feels like a lot. I also feel like I'm also in the stage of like, I've seen multiple people around me just have their second baby, and their lives have ended. Not ended, but like they're just like going through a really hard time, and it's like, shoot, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't know that I have time for that.
There is something to be said for once those kids like pass the 3-year-old threshold, and they're able to play with each other. I feel like you almost gain your life much more rapidly at that point.
For sure.
At least in little, you know, vignettes of time.
But that second kid is real, though. Like, it really is.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
1 to 2 is, for us, was the hardest, and even talking to other people, it's like that's the big one, you know, to get past.
Well, and I've sat here thinking, and I've just with the aspect of children, like, I've not sat on my hands, but like, I have worked full time, and I'm trying to pursue this art thing as well. So in a way, I feel like I've sat on my hands, or I'm looking at like 20% capacity, and then 80% of my focus is going towards my job. And then I feel like hopefully in 3 years that has shifted, and then to give it backwards, like, 10% of this is going to my career, 80% of this is going, or 90% is going to my kids for a couple more years. It's like, shoot, I don't have time for that. As in the back of my mind, I know that it feels very selfish, and I know that there's some navigating there, and I know that there's some mind shifting that will happen, and like biology will take over, you know, just the way that happens. But
it's totally selfish. I think it's just like practical. Like, if you're looking at something that you want to execute in your life, and you kind of reverse engineer, how can I execute that? Like, I mean, it's just practical to say, and also beneficial even for the child. Like, if you know,
I think the reason it feels selfish is because of the cultural pressure of like living in the Bible Belt of the nation, you know, and like the norms that are around us. But like Logan said, like, the best thing for your future kids is that you are ready to have kids when you have kids, and that's a desire of your heart. Because the worst thing would be to like succumb to a pressure, prematurely have a kid, and then resent that kid because you're not ready or like ready for that
sure.
season.
And I'm like, and I also know that there's like a lot of creative things that can happen, like that my family doesn't have to look like the families that I've seen, and it won't look like that. And there's a lot of solutions that I'm sure we haven't even like arrived at yet to come to some of this. So I don't know.
There's
Just,
also
like,
a unique
3 years out.
like just moment, or not moment, but dynamic to you that most females don't necessarily experience, and that's that you felt maternal to most of your
siblings.
really, really young siblings.
Yeah.
And so you know, like my wife only had a brother that was 8 years older than her, so like she gets out of the, you know, the hang out with my friends sort of season of your life where you don't really have any real responsibilities, and almost instantly is like, I desire to have a kid, like, you know, like that was part of, but I mean, you growing up with essentially raising, I mean, not totally, like you had an absent mom, or of course, or anything like that, but essentially being an integral part of raising so many of your younger siblings just makes it very different.
No, for sure.